Let's start the chapter. Leadership, Chapter 8. In this course, where we started in the first field where we talked about planning, which is defining goals, establishing strategy, developing sub-plans to coordinate activities. Then we move to the organizing, which is determining what needs to be done, how it will be done, and who is to do it. And now we are talking about leading, which is the directing and motivating all involved parties and resolving conflict. So you are here right now in the leading stage. In this chapter, we'll talk about the leaders and the difference between leaders and managers, but we will emphasize more about what makes a leader a leader. Now, the first question, do leaders and managers differ? Leaders provide visions, strategy for an organization. Manager implement that vision. Leaders deal with change in order to transform the organization. Managers deal with complexities of keeping organization running effectively and efficiently. Leadership, therefore, is the process of influencing individuals or a group in an organization toward the achievement of goals. Here's something. Do you think are all good managers good leaders? What about are all good leaders are good managers? There was an early approach which is called a three theories of leadership. We wanted to see that what kind of characteristics in the people that makes them a leader. Is there something born with or not? The tree theory originally searched for traits, characteristics to differentiate leaders from non-leaders. These traits have not been found. Some of them they did, but it's not consistent. So not all leaders have a unique and consistent characteristics. So there is not a special characteristic that every leader have it. And also traits ignore the interactions of leaders and their group members, as well as the situational factors. Attempts to identify consistently with leadership have been more successful. The process itself, they trying to identify not the trait, not the person who was born or that have that characteristic. They say the leader should be doing certain stuff. So that's the process and not the person. Now, there is 8 traits associated with the leadership or with the process. Usually what a leader do, first of all, it drive. Leader exhibit a high effort level. They have a relatively higher desire for achievement. They are ambitious, usually. They are full of energy. They are persistent, tireless in activities, and they are show initiative. So basically, a leader does not work 8 hours. He puts much more hours a day. Secondly, there should be a desire to lead. Leaders have a strong desire to influence and lead others. They demonstrate their willingness to take responsibility. They always want to take some new responsibilities. Honesty and integrity. Leaders build trusting relationship between themselves and followers by being truthful or non-deceitful, and by showing high consistencies between what they say or the word and deed. There is a lot of self-confidence in leaders. Followers usually look to the leaders for an absence of self-doubt. There is no doubt in the leaders. Leaders, therefore, need to show self-confidence in order to convince the followers of the rightness of their goals and decisions. Also, they have some kind of a cognitive intelligence. Leaders need to be intelligent enough to gather, synthesize, and interpret a large amount of information, and they need to be able to create vision, solve problems, and make correct decisions. Later on, we'll see the videos about creative thinking. Also, leaders have kind of an emotional intelligence. It's a different than intelligence itself. Leaders need to be aware of the emotion of, and also leaders need to be aware of their emotions and others surrounded, and they need to be able to use those emotions effectively when making decisions. They also have to have some kind of a job relevant knowledge. Effective leaders have a high degree of knowledge about the company, industry, and the technical matters. In-depth knowledge allows leaders to make a well-informed decisions and to understand the implication of those decisions. These days, there is also tools who help leaders think about it, like DSS, Decision Support System, or ESS, Executive Support System. Extroversions. Leaders are energetic, lively people. They are sociable, assertive, and rarely silent or withdrawn. Now, another early approach, which is behavior theory of leadership. So it's about what behaviors do leaders exhibit. Is there something unique in what a leader do in their word or behaviors? What do they show? So if the behavior theory could identify some kind of a critical behavioral determinants of anybody's leadership, then people could be trained to be leaders. So here is what he says. In other words, it could be a treat or it could be trained. Now, there is a research has been done in a different places, educational centers, and one of them is University of Iowa, looking at the behavioral dimensions. They looked at whether the leader has a democratic style, autocratic style, or laissez-faire style. Democratic is involving subordinates, delegating authorities, and encouraging participants. Now, in the autocratic, it's dedicating work and work method, centralizing decision making. These usually centralize the decision making and limiting participation. And then you have what you call the extreme one, which is the laissez-faire style, which is giving group the freedom to make decisions and complete work. But their conclusion was the democratic style of leadership was most effective, although later studies shows a mixed result. And we see that also in today's governments also. Then you have the studies done by Ohio State, which is, they said, could be, the leader could be one of the things into considerations or in initiating some kind of a structure. Consideration being considerate of followers, ideas, and feeling. Initiating structures, structuring work and work relationship to meet the job goals. Pretty similar like management also. The conclusion of that, they found out high leader is mean high in consideration and high in initiating structures, achieve higher subordinate performance and satisfaction, but not all the situation, not in every situation. There's another studies which is they also looked at behavior dimensions, and they looked at whether the leader is employee oriented or production oriented. Employee oriented, it emphasizes on interpersonal relationship and taking care of employees' needs, and employees will take care of the work. The other type is called the production-oriented, which is emphasize technical and task aspect of the job. So they want things to be done no matter what. The conclusion is employee-oriented leaders were associated with the high group productivities and high job satisfaction. So basically, employee-oriented is better than production-oriented. And then you have managerial grid studies, which is looked at also the behavior dimension, and they looked at the concerns of people, which is a major leaders' concerns for subordinate on a scale of 1 to 9, low to high. And others who concerns for production, which is measure the leader's concerns for getting job done on a scale of 1 to 9. In the conclusion, they found that who scored high on both usually done better. Now, in today's thinking, in the current way of thinking of theories for leadership, there's something called contingencies or contingency theories of leadership. And they look at that traits and the behavior of leaders are not enough to predict leadership success. Contingencies researchers consider whether the different situation requires a different style of leadership. So a leader might have a different style of leadership. The two key contingency theories both focus on relationship of leaders to followers. And They are what you call a situational leadership by Hersey and Blanchard. And you have the path goal theory. Now, situational leadership argue that successful leadership is achieved by selecting the right leadership style to match the level of followers' readiness. What kind of people there as a followers, and you have to match your style to theirs. Followers' readiness is the extent to which people have the ability and are willing to accomplish a specific task. If we look at this following readiness, we start from low to the high. When it's an R1, the followers usually are unable and unwilling or insecure. Then you have what you call the moderate one, which is R2 and R3, which is followers are unable but willing or confident. The other type of moderate are able but unwilling or insecure. And then you have the high, which is able and willing or confidence. Leader effectiveness depends on the action of followers. Followers accept or reject leaders. So leaders' effectiveness depends on the action of the followers, basically. And the followers accept or reject the leaders. Let's analyze our classes then. Path goal theory. A leader job, that's the second theory, a leader job is to assist followers in attaining their goals, to give necessary direction and or support. A leader ensures that followers' goals are compatible with overall objectives of the group and the organization. Path goal theory identifies 4 leadership behavior. And we say this is a contingency, depend on the situation. Now, one of the behavior is called a directive leader, the supportive leader, the participative leader, and the achievement-oriented leader. The effective path goal is, we said there is 4 of them. And the first one is about the directive leader, and basically schedules work to be done and give a specific guidance to on how to accomplish tasks. Supportive leader is a friendly and shows concerns for subordinate needs. Participative leaders consult with subordinate and uses their suggestions in decision making. Achievement-oriented leaders set challenging goals and expect followers to perform. Effective path goal behavior. We will explain this, how it works. Take a look at it, because basically we have a situation and what kind of in that situation, what kind of activity you do and how you're gonna measure it and follow it and what's the outcome. And basically some style that effective, so to be supportive, directive, achievement-oriented, or participated. We'll explain that. Developing trust. A leader credibility is judged in the term of honesty, competence, and ability to inspire. Trust has 5 dimensions. It has to be integrity, competence, consistency, loyalty, and openness. Leadership powers sources comes in from leadership power source is the capacity to influence work actions or decisions. And the source of leader power comes in from legitimate, coercive, reward, experts, reference. If you're a legitimate, you are the boss. You've been appointed the boss. Then you have the management and what you call incentive, doing incentive like coercive and reward. And then you have the personal power, which is the expert and referent. There is a specific team leadership role. So leadership does not mean you have to lead the whole organization. You can be a leader of a team. And it's basically, your job is really as a team leader, you're on constant coaching, liaison with the external, you do troubleshooters, and you become a troubleshooter, and you're always involved in conflict as a conflict manager. So these are the jobs that as a team leader, you do always. You're dealing with the outside, you are always as a coach, and you are the person who does the troubleshooters, and same times you are managing conflict on all the time. Thank you.